Now I know what you're thinking. You're probably saying to yourself, you already know what I'm going to say about the Sony press conference and what they had to reveal, and my excitement levels and how I felt about the press conference overall. And not the case. There was some really cool things in there, yes, but overall Sony's was not great. Not bad, but not great. Let's break it down. So Sony's has always done a really good job with giving a really, for lack of a better word, immersive presentation. It's not just a screen on stage. They have like the live orchestra. They have lights and stuff and elements outside of just the screen, like really engaging the people who are there at the conference. So it's probably really impressive for them. For everyone at home, we had to deal with bad audio feeds and a few technical problems, but that's not their fault. I'm not gonna hold it against them. So they had a good show and presence. Like they've always been good about that. Like they had the opening sitar performance with like really cool music and like the water behind them and the lights and like just making all kinds of different shapes, and all those shapes ended up being different symbols from the games they're gonna be showcasing. That was cool. That was cool. Nothing new with the games, but you know, that was cool. And then it starts off with a really cool CG story trailer for Uncharted Lost Legacy, which is, I mean, fine. We knew it was coming. They said they're going to do that. We've seen trailers before, and they elaborated on it a little bit more. And that was it. Just Uncharted Lost Legacy. It's coming. And sadly, that was the only thing we saw from Naughty Dog. A lot of us were really anticipating there being some Last of Us 2 footage, which even myself, I was thinking like Last of Us 2 would probably show up. They announced it, we know it's coming, why not show something on it? And they didn't at all. So they're either saving that for later this year, or the game is further off than we anticipated. I'm not going to hold that against them for their conference, but I just thought it was weird that it wasn't there at all. So after Uncharted, they then showed Horizon Zero Dawn, which is, I know it's a game that already came out, but they have another expansion coming out for that called The Frozen Wilds. Comes out in 2017, and it was a lot of in-game kind of story stuff, but not really showing what's really new gameplay-wise, or what it's adding to game-wise from the expansion. It was just more kind of story stuff. Okay, great. And those two are very similar theme. Both expansion packs, they showed off story bits, but not really what they could potentially be doing to enhance the gameplay, if they do at all. At least they gave a date for Frozen Wilds. And Horizon Zero Dawn is an awesome game, and more of that, awesome. Very cool. But it was just an expansion for stuff that we already saw, and not mind-blowing by any means. They then went into more gameplay of a game that they announced last year, which was Days Gone. Last year was that motorcycle game with a bunch of zombies and the dude's like chasing someone down and climbs up a bunch of like construction equipment to try to stay away from zombies. It's that game. They showed off more actual gameplay for it this year, and the gameplay of it looks fine. It reminded me very much of, say, a motorcycle-based open-world Uncharted-esque game, at least in terms of character interactions, the look of the world, the stealth gameplay. They showed them like putting down a bear trap and hiding it in a bush and throwing a rock over to it, so a guy went to check out that sound and stepped in the bear trap, and then all his friends ran over to him to help him get out of the bear trap, and he used that to sneak past. Alright, fine. The only really impressive thing that they had going on in Days Gone was that when there are zombies, there are a crap ton of zombies. Just dozens of them at any point in time. One moment, they actually had them within the gameplay itself, because anytime I've seen them before, I was really concerned that those are just kind of story zombies running around, like you're supposed to see them just be like, oh, fuck, and just get out of there. But no, they show that those zombies are very much a part of the gameplay, and they're going to be up in your face, or your enemies' faces, as they showed within that demo. And then there's a zombear. There's a zombear. And that was about it. It was so more Days Gone. Okay, some more gameplay of stuff that we saw last year. Okay, huh. Kind of a reoccurring theme. Got it. But then they went into probably their one biggest surprise announcement. Certainly took me by surprise, and that was Monster Hunter World. All new Monster Hunter game. It's not exclusive to PS4. It is coming to Xbox One and to PC as well, but they're the ones who got to show it off. And holy crap, did it look awesome though. Completely revamped Monster Hunter, grapple hooks using leaves to cover yourself up, continuous worlds, so there's no load screen between areas, it's drop in, drop out, so it's like a persistent game, so you're always in there within the world and your allies can show up whenever you want them to. They show the Rathlals coming in, the monsters were fighting each other, he was like leaping off of him and like him with a sword and climbing up on the monster's back. There's some new monsters in there, they all looked cool, like there was some awesome looking stuff. The most elevated Monster Hunter has ever looked, and that was so cool. Like he was destroying the environment, and like taking down trees and breaking stuff, and it was awesome. Very cool. Yes, that was great. That was probably my highlight of the conference. Even if you're not a huge Monster Hunter fan, like that was just really cool looking and really engaging. And it's still a multiplayer game, but it seemed the way it was presented seemed like a very viable single player game as well. No idea if it's going to be like a continuous story, if it's just you're in the world and survive as long as you can. I don't know what. They didn't show much in terms of going back to town and getting quests and having to complete quests in time or whatever, but it was very much Monster Hunter and it looked incredible. It's coming out in early 2018, and yes, I will be doing everything I can to play it at E3. I will be doing that. Maybe I'll show some gameplay stuff of it. Subscribe to my gameplay channel, ProJared Plays. I'll probably try to show some E3 stuff over on there. So that was awesome. And then another surprise announcement is that they're doing a HD release of Shadow of Colossus. I want to be really excited for that because it does look way better. But they already did an HD release of Shadow of the Colossus. Yes, this version has improved character models, improved environments, like the monsters still look just as impressive, and they're really trying to do everything they can to maintain that same game. I don't know if they're planning on adding to it, more storylines, more colossi to fight, or whatever enhancements they're going to do. Like, it seemed like very much another HD remake of a game that already got an HD remake. It's hard to get excited for that when one already exists. If there wasn't already an HD Shadow of the Colossus port of the PS2 version, then this would have been like, holy god kind of moment. But because that game already existed, that lacked the punch and just seems unnecessary. I'll probably still play it, don't get me wrong, but it's really hard to get the hype from that when it just seemed like another half step over something that we already have, or something that probably should have done in the first place. You know? So I wasn't super excited by that one, other than like, okay, like unnecessary, but cool. They then moved into a brief trailer for Marvel vs. Capcom Infinite. This is a game I really want to play because I really want to play story mode. I like story modes in fighting games. I heard it's super short, but it's got a lot of awesome characters in there. They're showing Strider, Zero showed up along with Mega Man X, Dante giving his guns to Rocket Raccoon, Nova, all kinds of awesome. Like Thanos is in there, like they're trying to like court Thanos to help them with the Infinity Stones, and just had some cool story stuff going on. More importantly, they have a demo of that story available right now, so you can go onto the PlayStation Store. I don't know if it's on the other marketplaces or consoles. Someone check that for me, but at least on PlayStation 4, you can go download a demo of that story right now, which is awesome. Didn't really expand anything on gameplay-wise, but there was just them saying like, hey, we got a story demo. Fine. Then they moved on to Call of Duty World War II. Is one of the things that, you know, they kind of have to. Didn't see anything in there that excited me at all. At least Battlefield 1 had horses, and you could do that. This one just seemed like going back to very brown Call of Duty games. Like, they were good for a while. They kind of moved out of that brown territory, but this one is just very grimy and dirty. I mean, it's World War II, so that's understandable, but throw some trees in there or something, dude. So, no excitement from, I think, really anyone. Especially since that's also a game that everyone knew already existed and was coming. Then, and I wish I was joking about this. They showed Skyrim? How many times can we keep seeing goddamn Skyrim in all these press conferences? Again, this is a 6-year-old game. However, this isn't just Skyrim. This is Skyrim VR for PSVR. Alright, fine. Maybe that'll make the combat fun. Or make the game fun, but it's still just another 6-year-old game that Bethesda is just tacking something onto and then kind of releasing. Bethesda's going really hard into VR. I get why they're doing it. It's Elder Scrolls Skyrim. It has a lot of people love that game. It's got a lot of reputation there. They're already doing it for Fallout 4, so why not do it for Skyrim 2? I get it, but man, after all the other press conferences and Skyrim showing up all the time from all those, it's really hard to be excited for yet another Skyrim re-release. This whole section was a lot of VR stuff at this point. They showed off like 4 VR things. So this did Skyrim, and then they briefly showed off something called Star Child, which seemed like a sort of platformer kind of thing, which is like a glowy girl or person. I don't remember what gender they were, if they had one, and they were just kind of moving forward, and there was a giant robot hand came down, like protected her, and I mean, it looked neat. I don't know anything about the game, how it plays, when it's coming out, or why it's VR. Like, it didn't really show any kind of VR interaction if you're playing as, say, the person that's running around, or if you're playing as a giant robot, or what. And I know, some people are trying to argue, just because it's a VR game doesn't mean it has to be first person. And it's like, okay, yeah, you're right, but if it's not first person, then you're just playing a 3D game, and the entire gaming industry has already moved on past that. So it has to be first person somehow, and it didn't show that at all. So it's really hard to get excited about that when you're touting it as a virtual reality title, but not showcasing why it's virtual reality. They also then showed cinematic CG trailer for what I assume is a sort of psychological thriller game called The Inpatient. It was again another VR, like a lot of doctors up in your faces being like, I just want what's best for you, and crazy imagery, but again, not a whole lot there for actual gameplay or why you should be getting excited about it. But if it's a horror game for VR, I would probably play that. I do enjoy horror games, and I think VR enhances a lot of them, but not enough there, not even a release date or anything to really get us excited for it. And then they showed off Final Fantasy 15 VR. Man, for as much crap I'm giving Bethesda for milking the crap out of Elder Scrolls 6, Square has been just wringing Final Fantasy 15 dry. Between the movies, the mobile games, the multiple mobile games, and demos, and etc. But anyway, this is Final Fantasy 15, Fishing with Your Bros. VR. Showed first-person fishing. Noctis was there. Sometimes monsters showed up. I don't know, dude. As far as I got, it was 80% fishing, 20% monsters showed up, and you fish harder? I don't know. It seemed like, hey man, these 4 guys, they're all bros. Don't you want to hang out with them? This is the game for you. All I could think of. All I could think of. They had one last VR, no, they had a couple other VR things from that. One was another pseudo-futuristic, kind of reminded me of Resistance, kind of shooter, but it was called Bravo Team. And then the last one was called Moss, which was this cute little mouse dude with big ears, and he had a little sword, and he was running around, and you kind of play as this spirit, watching him and following him, and interacting with the environment and helping him progress or defend against monsters. So it seemed like a platformer puzzler, and it's you interacting with everything around him to help ensure his safety. Now, for as much crap I'm giving all this VR stuff that they showed, I don't hate that, because they are showing some ambitious VR games. Because right now, a lot of virtual reality stuff that you see show up on the HTC Vive or the Oculus, it's all kind of smaller titles as they just kind of test the waters to see what they can even do and what people are even interested in. But they're showing off a lot of games that are, you know, not quite AAA, but at least single A, kind of good VR experiences, and they're really going into that. So I do like that. Nothing was really there to really get me excited about it, but I do like the fact that they're getting more substantial VR games to play instead of just these little nuggets of stuff that maybe this will work and have bad graphics because we don't want to try that hard in it. So after Moss, they then went into God of War 4, which I don't think the official title is for. Every time they showed the logo, it was just God of War. And this is another game that they showed last year. And they showed some gameplay last year. Now, to be fair, this year, they showed even more story stuff and more gameplay stuff. It was still kind of montage-y, sizzle reel style, rather than just like the actual demo like they had last year. That said, I still think it looks cool. I am not a God of War fan at all, or even those kind of action games. It's not really for me, but just by the way they're doing the combat and the interactions, I am much more interested in playing this God of War game than I was any other one. Especially since the whole setup's very cool. Just, you know, they're calling it Dad of War, and that's what it is. Kratos is a dad. He's got an awesome beard, and he's walking around with his son and showing him the world or whatever. So it's the most intriguing God of War game I've ever wanted to play. Yes, but I also said that last year. We know it's coming early 2018, so we at least got that out of the trailer. Then there was another gameplay trailer for Detroit Become Human. This is that David Cage game. The same dude who did Heavy Rain and Beyond Two Souls, which is just a dumb garbage piece of game. This is the next one. I swear, this time he's got it. Just believe in him. And they showed off some actual gameplay stuff, but it was still very much David Cage in that it's QuickTime events, and you're kind of standing in an area, and you have like 3 options that you can do, and it's pick one and see where it goes from there. It's still very much choose your own adventure. It looks pretty. Graphics were good. Facial capture was good. The voice acting was good. Far different than his previous games. But it's still hard to get excited for that. I just know him. I know him, and because of that, it's not. I can't get that excited for it. I'll probably still end up playing it out of spite, or just to confirm my own bias. Maybe it'll end up being awesome. I don't know. But they just kind of went more into the story about how robots are basically trying to. You are part of the robot uprising against humans, or not. I don't know, the choice is yours. But they didn't really show anything else about it, like when it's coming out or whatever. It was just another thing from last year that they're reminding us exists. Next trailer after that was Destiny 2. And it was just kind of, I guess this was just to remind people that Destiny 2 is coming in case you somehow missed the Destiny 2 trailers and news that came out several days/weeks ago. I don't know, maybe they're just trying to excite not the super hardcore die-hard Destiny players, but try to entice other ones. I don't know. It's kind of weird. Like, they already had release dates and stuff for it. Maybe it was for the betas, because they have betas along the way, but we already knew the release dates were coming, so I don't really know what purpose that trailer really served, other than the fact that they're reminding you, Destiny 2, PlayStation 4, Activision owns Bungie. I don't know. After that was, surprisingly, the last game they had to show. And he kind of built it up pretty hard. The dude who came out was like, one last PlayStation 4 game, actually exclusive to PlayStation 4. And it was Spider-Man, which is the same way they ended the conference last year. And so Spider-Man, they showed some gameplay stuff, and Spider-Man does whatever an Arkham can. I stole that joke from Shane. So it's Arkham. They took the Batman Arkham games and just said, what if Spider-Man does that? And that's what they did. And you know what? It looks awesome. I actually liked a lot of what I saw for Spider-Man, not Homecoming, that's the movie. I think it's just called Spider-Man. It was very much Arkham inspired in the combat, with like a lot of dodge rolling, slow motion, and responding to enemies, and kind of like that multi-person combat. They showed a lot of stealth beforehand as Spider-Man like webs his way up onto like a ledge and silently takes out enemies or sneaks up on them. They had really liberal use of his webbing and almost everything that he did, which is really cool to see. But what I really liked about that is like, yes, it's absolutely Arkham. It's Arkham gameplay, and they're slapping Spider-Man on it. It'll probably still be good. But what I liked about all of that is that they, much like how the Arkham games absolutely captured the feel of being Batman, this one absolutely looks like it was capturing that feel of Spider-Man. And I mean that in a multitude of ways. One of them was that anytime he got into a fight, he wasn't just punching him and hitting him with webs. There was so much environmental interaction in there, and it was awesome to see. Any point in time a fight broke out, it seemed like L2 and R2 are like your web buttons that you'll always be using for both your hands. So you'll see like L2 on top of something, R2 over another thing. So Spider-Man would like whip like a crate and swing it around his head and like throw it at the bad guy. Or they're like in a construction area and there's a crane hanging by, so he like whips the crane, like pulls on it so it swings forward and slaps the dude in the face in the middle of combat. It was a lot of interactions like that, and that was cool. I was really into that, just of him using the environment to help defeat his enemies. That's a very Spider-Man thing. I also really liked, this was very much a story segment, so it was a lot of like over-the-top action and like a lot of set piece kind of things, but I really liked the way they did their set pieces, because it was, you know, helicopter flying through the city, destruction is happening, this massive construction crane is falling over, it's about to bust so many buildings and take out a lot of people. And Spider-Man ran forward to stop that. It was all QuickTime event based. It was, but it was well done, in just that it captured that feel of Spider-Man, in that they really wanted you to remember like there was responsibility to being a superhero. So all this destruction was happening, and the game goes out of the way to have you help prevent and stop that. I like that. That's very much in theme with Spider-Man. QuickTime events, yeah, but they were cool looking. It was really cinematic, because anytime you did something, even if it's not a QuickTime event, you just caught up, like the camera would like cut away to other people, like, or innocent bystanders, just different angles before getting back into the action. So it was really cinematic that way, and not just, oh, cutscene slow motion, camera always on Spider-Man presentation. So yeah, presentation wise, I actually really liked a lot. In the gameplay, it's Arkham, but there's nothing wrong with that. It looks like they're doing a really good job with it. And then at the end, they teased that Miles Morales is in the game. I don't know if that means you get to play as him too. If so, that'd be awesome. Just get some more Spider-Men. Have some more Spider-Mens from the future show up. Spider-Gwen. Have Spider-Gwen show up. That'd be awesome. Unlockable DLC. Or costume or something. I don't know. And that was it for the Sony conference. So the reason that I'm not crazy about this and it wasn't great was because a lot of the stuff they showed off was stuff that we saw last year. And that quells a lot of it, just because, I mean, they elaborated a lot more on those, yeah, but since we already saw them, like, we're ready for what we can see this year, which there was almost none of. They had a lot of early 2018 or no date at all games along the way, which was the same case last year, so they ended up repeating themselves. Not that that's bad, because those games and those presentations and demos were good. They looked really solid, but the fact that we already saw them kind of stunts the excitement level that you could possibly get from Sony. Not that there weren't exciting things. Monster Hunter Worlds was very exciting, absolutely. The Spider-Man gameplay was exciting. Some other stuff. So that's why I'm not too keen on Sony's this year. And it was also shorter than I thought it was going to be. I thought it was going to be just over an hour, and it ended up being just under an hour. So probably like 15-20 minutes shorter than I thought it was going to be. They also completely lacked any kind of indie presence this time. Even just like a sizzle reel, seeing like, here's all the cool indie games coming to the PlayStation Store. They didn't have that at all. It was games, basically games from last year and some VR. That was their conference summed up as a whole. But again, it wasn't bad. It wasn't like so atrocious or so like not new that it was not worth the time, because there were still some cool things in there. So because of that, overall for Sony, gonna be a C+. They're about the same as EA. I'll set things said and done. I know I gave a generous grade to EA earlier, and I kind of regret that, but I put them both right around a C+. Like average, because a lot of stuff from last year, but they did show some cool new things. All that stuff we already knew about, so C+ on that. Not amazing. I do think Microsoft did a better job than then, and then Ubisoft still has the best press conference thus far. Not Digital Devolvers. That was just a troll. I'm not going to talk about that or cover it, in case so many of you were wondering. But that's not the end of E3, because we still have one more to go, and that's Nintendo's tomorrow morning, super early morning for me. That one, they said it's going to be about 25 minutes, but it's a Nintendo Direct, so it'll probably still have a lot of stuff in it, hopefully, but I'll try to talk about my thoughts on that as soon as that's over as well. And then I'm down to E3 to immediately go play whatever I can. What did you think of the Sony press conference? Is there anything that I forgot to talk about, or something that I should have mentioned or didn't? And how do you think this one stacked up to the others? I still think Ubisoft is the best one so far. There's still Nintendo tomorrow, but you know, that's a completely different than all the other press conferences. Aside from Bethesda, so you know what? Never mind, who gives a crap anymore? Anyway, be sure to subscribe if you want to see more of these. I'd really appreciate it. Still join me on Twitch as I watch them live, twitch.tv/ProJared. And then I've also got the other press conference videos for you to watch and check out too. Thank you guys, I really appreciate it. It means a lot to me that you are watching this. I'll see you soon.